Thank you, Kathe, for coming. Welcome to the Beyond Technology podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Let's kick it off with your business. What do you do?
So I am now the president and co-owner of RedPoint Media. We're most well known for publishing Avenue magazine. We also publish The Scene, and then we do a lot of content and both print and digital, as well as event development on behalf of clients. And then we also have what we call our Avenue A-List program, which is a membership-driven events program.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So lots going on.
Yeah, there is always a lot going on. It allows me to really follow my curiosity about the city. And I'm really, really lucky, I feel, to be able to do this business in this city at this time.
Yeah, that's very cool. Where do you see yourself and your business in 10 years?
10 years feels like a very long horizon. So my business partner and I bought RedPoint 3 years ago. And we've really been in a transition of taking the company from being more of a traditional print publishing company to being a social venture that's focused on connection. So really digging into these questions of how do we connect Calgarians to their city? How do we connect Albertans to this place? How do we build deeper connections between our readers, our clients, our readers and each other, our readers in the city, and really engage people in the stories that we're telling them. So the last 3 years have been a bit of a whirlwind. And so 10 years, we have lofty plans. We really want to take what we're doing and change how traditional media is working. So we've got big plans.
Okay, so wait and see.
Yeah. Don't wait. Come join with us. Come play with us. We have a lot of fun.
Be part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. In your business, obviously in the last 3 years, you probably run into some problems, and some of them you might have used technology to help you with. Tell me a story about when you used technology to solve a problem and it really made a big difference.
A lot of what we've been doing in the last few years is really focusing on our tech stack and where technology is working for us, where it is a challenge for us. I think that we use technology in so many different ways. So we're a completely remote workplace. So everybody that works for RedPoint works, not everybody, but almost everybody works in Calgary or in the area. And that's partly because the content that we do and the community that we're connecting with is based in Calgary. So most of our employees are based here, but they all work from home. So we have a co-working space at C-Space Marta Loop, but we use that for team meetings. We use that to bring sometimes when we have client meetings, but otherwise day to day, we're working all over the city and we're working remotely. So we use technology, it's the water we swim in all day long, because we're communicating online. All of our work is done in the cloud. All of the work that we do is digitally connected. And I think there is sort of an irony in that at the end of the day, it becomes a physical product. And I think there is a great need for that kind of physical product, but all day long, our work lives are lived within a technology space. So it's hard to give one example because it's everything that we do. It's everything that we're working on.
Cool. Can you think of a time when you were using technology and maybe it went wrong?
Yes, I can think of a time when technology has gone wrong. Just recently we had a situation where an employee was working on a proof of the magazine and it didn't save properly. And so all their work for the whole day was lost. They had to redo that whole day's worth of work. And it's not something that you just remember, like what did I change? Where was this? Oh yeah, this had to change. And so that's a technology failure. But I think those things as well, those can happen in any space. My background is I used to actually teach communications technology. And so when I think of technology too, there's that element of, a magazine is a technology. A magazine, a physical piece is still a technology of how do we communicate. It's a communications technology. So it's not just the internet or, voice over IP phones or, blockchain. Those aren't the only technologies. Actually, even print media is a technology. And figuring out what is the best use for the best scenario.
Yeah, paper is technology.
Yeah, exactly. Paper is technology. And the printing process is a technological process. How we have changed, and that has changed dramatically over my career. When I started in magazines, we actually physically pasted up the story. So you'd print out a story, you'd put it on, we'd run it through what was called a waxer. So it would have sort of warm wax on the back of the printout, and you'd stick that onto the layout. And then those layouts would be photographed and made into the magazines. So, all of those technologies of print have changed and evolved over time. And so really figuring out, how do we use the technology that's available to us for the best possible use, and which technologies really emphasize the type of connection we want to make with people?
Got it. Yeah. I mean, that's why I guess wax candles are so expensive now.
Yeah. Yeah, and because it's about what is the type of thing that you're trying to do with a wax candle. You're not typically using a wax candle anymore to light your space. You're using it to create a vibe, right? So you're like, I want this to feel romantic and warm and cozy, not just be like, I'm going to read by this. Right?
Not a necessity anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha. So how do you decide when you're trying to solve a problem? How do you decide when to not use technology?
I mean, I think what you're getting at is more that question of like, which technology suits the occasion. So for example, if we say, okay, we want to have a really close connection with a small group of people, we might want to have an in-person event rather than an email blast that goes out, right? So even then, we're typically going to use email to invite people to an in-person gathering. At that gathering, we're going to use microphones to talk to them. If we're going to have a panel discussion, for example, we might have an AV presentation. So I think we don't really necessarily look at something as when are we not using technology, but we might be looking at something and saying, what is the right method or platform of communication to connect in the way that we want to with this audience.
Yeah, so it's about like the level of connection versus, how you use the technology. Because
level, immediacy. So for example, if you're trying to get someone a message right now, the best method isn't, we're going to meet with them in a month.
Yeah.
Right. So again, that kind of piece of how many people are we trying to connect with? What is the outcome we want? Are we trying to change their minds about something? Are we trying to get them to do an action? Is that action an online action? So for example, if we're trying to sell tickets to an event, then often an online ad is the best space for that, because we can have an immediate call to action, and they're probably going to purchase that event ticket online. Even though they're still going to go to an event in person, there's a number of pieces of technology mediating that experience before they're actually in the room.
Yeah, for sure. Helps make it more seamless, right?
Yeah, and it's that question of like, what are you trying to get the audience to do? What's the best space to try to get them to do that? And what's the outcome you want for them or on behalf of them? What are you trying to change people's minds? Are you trying to get them to perform a specific action? Are you trying to inform them? Are you trying to, again, connect them to different people? And we do this a lot of times without really thinking tactically about it, right? You're going to invite a person, say you're going to invite a friend to dinner. You're not going to send them a letter. You're going to probably send them a text, or you're going to like maybe make a reservation and send that reservation from OpenTable and be like, hey, join me for dinner. So it's, again, we do this often without thinking. When it's a more complicated action that we maybe don't do that often, then we take a little bit of strategy time with it.
Yeah, gotcha. Tell me about some non-techie things that you use in your work that you kind of refuse to let go of.
We're still printing print magazines, right? We have a physical product that we create with the vast majority of what we create. So Avenue Magazine, we print 45,000 copies of every issue. The Scene Magazine, 5,000 copies. Leap Magazine, which we do on behalf of Alberta Cancer Foundation, I believe we do 10,000 copies every issue. So again, those are all, if you want to say it that way, for the reader, they appear as non-technology. But we use technology all the way along to create that physical product. We use technology to get it to the audience. There's a lot of work with Canada Post or with our distribution partners to see, okay, where are all the copies going? How many got picked up? I'm a handwritten notebook person. Like I retain information better if I write it down by hand. I'm not very good at retaining information that I've typed out.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard that a lot from people. myself included. I have a notebook as well, and take notes when I really want to remember something or I want to brainstorm something. I find that works a lot.
And you think about talking. We're talking, that's not a technology. And yet, this is being recorded. We're going to put it on the internet. We're going to create a podcast. You've got your notes and your questions on your phone. So there's now, I think, more often an interplay between technology and non-technology. And that line really starts to blur. Is a conversation a technology of communication? I think you'd be stretching the definition quite a bit. But once we put that onto a podcast, I don't think there's anybody who'd be like, oh, that's not technology, because it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
But again, that kind of piece of, we try to maybe not necessarily focus on what's technology, but more focus on what's the best platform for communicating this particular message, and which platforms are best at which types of engagement and connection.
Yeah, for sure. I think language is a technology, right? I think it's what separates us from every other human or living being on the planet, right? They don't have language.
Yeah, and when you think about it's an operating language, right? We use that terminology between technologies and communications, right? The idea of a language and how we do the communications that we do.
Yeah, for sure. If you could wave a magic wand and take a technology process or workflow that you have today and fix it with technology, what would that be?
I'm always frustrated by those processes that are just copying and pasting. So anything where it's we're taking the magazine and we're putting that content onto the website, and somebody has to cut out each of the, copy each of these fields and put them into this other platform. So those types of processes, which I think are, often, they're kind of drudgery. They're kind of you have to move this information from this software into that software, right? And take this information that's currently in a PDF, make it into an Excel. Take this story that's in the print publication and put it onto the website. So those kinds of processes where there is not a lot of thought, it's just copy this and put it over here. I think those are the things that I would love to get rid of. And because even within those, there's a second part, which is okay, now think about, we got to rewrite this headline. This headline doesn't work as well in a digital platform as it does in the print platform. Or this works well on the website, but when we put this story into our newsletter, it needs a shorter, more quick hit kind of headline. So those kinds of processes, that's where I'd love my team to be able to focus rather than the sort of just cutting and pasting.
Copy paste, yeah. And in the world of digital risk and AI and all these kind of security problems that you hear about, how do you make it safe for your team to experiment with these things?
Yeah, AI, I feel like every day gets more and more risky. Usually with technology, you're more safeguards are being put in place, more guardrails are being put in place. And AI seems to not be at that space yet. So for example, when OpenAI was we're going to create pornography, we were whoa, okay. We're more and more hesitant then about working with imagery and AI, right? Because again, where in the past we might have been maybe there's an opportunity to do photo retouching in AI. Well, I'm not going to take anyone's photo and be retouch this in AI, because now I don't know what exactly are the rules. If I put that into AI, can that image be used to create pornography of that person, right? It's just, the guardrails don't seem to be in place. So I would say actually, we're becoming, the more we learn about AI, the more hesitant we're becoming rather than the more comfortable we're becoming. I think one of the biggest challenges philosophically that I have with AI is the starting point is deception. So in AI, especially a generative text AI, its metric of success is it's fooled you. So it's set out, it's creating as its parameters of success fraud. I find that deeply problematic. And so then, it's not about like, well, what can they put into their terms of service that make me more comfortable? It's like, I think you're starting as liars. It's really hard for me to get comfortable with people who start from a framework of being comfortable with wanting to trick people. So I think, what we are looking at is some of the agentic AI and things that can do that aren't necessarily generating text, but maybe they're doing things like taking the PDF and making it into an Excel. But even then, I think where we're quite hesitant is like, well, what is the content of the PDF that we're now giving to these companies that are comfortable with fraud?
Yeah.
Right. So it's, and I think most of us have had this experience of you sign up for something and then they send you the email that says, we've changed our terms of service and here's the 800 pages.
You never read it.
Which you can't, even if you read it, can you compare it to the previous one? Are they going to change it again in 6 months? Maybe that's something you feed into AI. Hey, how is this different than my previous terms of service? And your only opportunity ever is to opt out. It's not, do you agree with these terms or no, I'm going to pencil in these ones that I don't agree with this section. Subsection 72, I don't agree with, but yes, otherwise. It's just, I'd say yes, no. And I think the other concern for us is not knowing what's being used and really having a sense of this is going to be a lot bigger than anything that we can really conceive of yet, in the sense of, there used to be these stories. There used to be these stories of like hordes of people on meth who would go around and take your, everything that you'd put through your shredder and they would put it all back together and find your Visa card number. And I feel like that's the kind of paranoia that we're in the space of AI, that it's like, if I put an interview into AI, which we're doing all the time, it's happens all the time, right? But I put an interview in with someone, you put an interview in with that someone, 5 years down the road, someone else puts that in with someone. Now they have that person's voice and it's identified as being that person. And even if it wasn't identified as being that person, well, they can pull in, okay, well, we see their Google Calendar. It was probably them because it was taken at this time, right? And you start getting into this, you sound like a lunatic when you say these kinds of things, right? Because it starts to get really paranoid. And so when we're in a space where our work is about creating trust, creating connection, being authentic with people, the rules have all changed, and the underlying structure of what we thought was what we were doing seems uncertain right now. And so it is one of those things, like I said, you start to sound even to yourself like you're like, is this crazy? So I think where we are with AI is deep, deep uncertainty and ambivalence.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of people when they start to think about AI, there's actually so much low-hanging fruit in just like straight automation.
Yeah.
Right? And no AI involved either, right? And you can...
Well, and we're using AI in so many things that we don't think about.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I used maps to get here. Yeah. Didn't think twice about like, that's AI, right? Not even just in the like, okay, here's the algorithm of how to go, but it's also using all the other users' reported data and timelines on, okay, well, where was the traffic? The real-time traffic between here and here. So there's all sorts of uses that we're making of it that we're not even really that conscious of. But at the same time, I think there's huge, huge, huge opportunity. And there's so much that's unknown and risky.
Yeah. You remind me of the story of the gentleman in London. He wanted to trick the Google traffic data. And so he loaded up like 100 or 200 cell phones into just a little trolley and carried it across a bridge and stayed there. And so it made Google think there was a big traffic jam. Yeah. And so no cars, like everybody else, rerouted. And so then the bridge was empty. Yeah. And then it went viral on social, but it was pretty funny. But again, back to your point about how much can you trust the data? right? If somebody can just manipulate it, right?
I mean, I think there's two pieces. One is trusting the data, and the second piece is trusting who's holding your data, who's using that, and what use are they making of it. And there's just so much that we don't know yet. And I think for us, again, looking at that, the biggest and most immediate risk for RedPoint that we believe is out there with AI is zero-click search, right? So you go to Google, you ask, best restaurants in Calgary. Right now, it's going to send you to Avenue. It's going to send you to our website. We can then share our stories. We can monetize those clicks. We can show you some ads, and hopefully you click through them or not. But going forward, increasingly, Google says, this is what Avenue said. You don't actually have to go to the website. We just stole their content. We're going to put it in this box right at the top. And maybe we're going to tell you we stole it from Avenue, and maybe we're not going to tell you we stole it from Avenue. This is just the answer to your question. And that changes a lot of things for how we do our business. And it also changes a lot of things for what is Google for, right? So never mind even the move of people being like, I'm not going to do Google search at all. I'm just going to go to ChatGPT and ask my questions there. And so it's not intended to be a search with a list of sources. It's intended to just provide an answer.
The amount of times I've Googled something and it gives you the list, and then it also gives you the links. So then you click the thing and it shows you the two sources. And then what it says in the AI, I can't find any of it on either of those pages. And I'm like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want the source, and I want to be able to make sure it's correct.
Well, and I don't know if you've been finding this, but I've been finding that more and more Google's not giving me the answer to the question that I asked.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm searching for something, and it gives me, here's the link to the website of the person who's bought this search term. Here's the answer that we've cobbled together from we don't know where. Yeah. And then 3 answers down is what you were actually looking for. Whereas in the past, when Google started, it was a miracle. It was it indexed the whole internet. And you would remember you'd put it in, and it would be we found 3 billion answers in 0.3 seconds. And you're like, wow, it's so amazing. And now you're I feel it's a step backwards, where I'm often now putting in, searching 2 or 3 times to find what I'm actually looking for. It's the old days of Netscape Navigator, where you were your Boolean search, where you're okay, you have to put quotation marks around this word, and then you have to put plus this term minus this term. And you're what are we doing here? This is actually going backwards. Right. And so then it's, again, people are ceasing to trust the responses, and they're not getting actually what they're looking for. So where the future of the internet is going is uncertain.
It's a bit hairy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. It's just it has not been a linear progression.
No, for sure. With technology, do you think it's making leadership easier or harder?
Neither. I think it's the same. I think leadership is always hard because leadership's about people. Leadership's not about technology. The technology changes, again, like I was kind of talking about, it changes the water that we're swimming in. But it's still, at the end of the day, leadership is about people and relationship and building relationships with people. Sometimes that's harder because, for example, with a remote workplace, it's a different type of leadership to lead a group of people that you're not physically in the same room with every day. I'm not sure if it's harder or easier. It's just different. And, people are a pain in the neck. They're difficult, and they have their emotions, and they come to work and they've got all these other things going on. They've got their home lives, and they've got their kids, and they don't like traffic, and they don't like driving in the snow, and they're grouchy, and then, or not, and right? All these things. Leadership is about, how do I help that group of people who have all these other things going on that are particular to them individually? How do I get them to work together to do the project that I'm leading? Yeah. That's what leadership is about. And I think, there's certain things where you're we can use this project management software, and then we can see where everything's at. Sure. Great. That's one way to do it. But at the end of the day, the true issue is, how do I get this group of people to work together on this project?
Yeah, for sure. And people are complicated, right? And I think the other part about leadership is just really helping them find their gifts that maybe they don't see, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like what is the unique, helping them see it, helping yourself see it. What is this, if I'm having this challenge with this person that I work with, what's the root of the challenge? Is the root of the challenge the communication technology? So for example, we have this constant discussion within our company. We use Slack, we use Google Chat, we use email, we use a project management software called ClickUp. We have a shared Google Drive, all these things. We have all these different ways of communicating. And some people really want to lock that down and be like, you can only use GChat for this. And it's like, other people are like, yeah, just text me. Right? And so I think, again, it's even within having, sometimes there's too many options. There's an abundance of choice and it gets confusing. But even if there wasn't, if you did the other way and you said, okay, if you're sending this type of communication to this particular project, it has to be via email. And if you've got this communication about this kind of work, it has to go into ClickUp. And if you can only use Slack for XYZ, well, people just wouldn't do it. There'd also be that. Then you're leading you're micromanaging people's use of technology, right? So I think there's always something that's a challenge when you've got people involved, right? Like maybe if you have the kind of job where you're primarily working with technology and there's no people involved, at the end of the day, you're often trying to figure out like who's going to use this. And I think, going back to the discussion of AI, I think often that's the problem with AI, is it's a technology that's in search of a use case. It's in search of how will people use this? And so we have this product that now companies are being like, you could do this, instead of being like, you have this problem, we've created a technology to solve your problem. They're like, we have this technology, surely you have a problem this will solve. Right? So it's usually that's not a good way to create technology. Or any product. Usually if you're creating a product that solves a problem, that's where it's going to take off. If you created a product and you're like, surely there's a need for this product out there somewhere because it's so awesome. That's kind of where we're at with that, right?
And I think if you listen to all the things about how much money is being invested into AI and how much revenue they're making, it's drastically doesn't align.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a difference there too when you talk about revenue versus valuation.
Yeah, and I think, and the cost of that, right? So it tells you that they're charging you way less than they probably should to be able to keep this sustainable. And that tells me that then you're the product.
Sometimes, right? Like you think about Uber, right? Like the product of Uber is the data about how people move around in cities. And again, the problem there is like, so who needs that data? Mostly cities aren't going to buy it. So where does that become a usable actual product? It's uncertain, right? And again, is the problem that the technology is trying to solve worth the investment? So the technology that's, for example, Uber is trying to solve is like, I don't like taxis. I think they charge too much. Okay, this seems like an awful lot of work to solve that problem. But again, maybe it's helped, right? Like there's incredible advancements in taxis have their own apps. Taxis are doing a lot of the things that Uber sort of put at the forefront. But the question is still, which one's working better? Which one's actually solving the problem that people have?
Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite app these days?
It's probably Libby. So I use Libby. It is the app that I probably use the most. And part of that is because I tend to try to limit my use of my phone because I find that I get distracted on my phone, and that it's really easy for me to be using it and then switch to something else and lose track. So once I've clicked into an email and then I go look at something else, now the email says it's been opened, it's been read. Now I don't have that kind of key of like, you didn't actually read it. You were distracted and looking at 10 other things. But Libby, I'm always delighted when I use Libby. I'm happy that I'm reading more. I have access to tons of books. I have tons of conversations where someone will recommend a book and I can instantly go on and be like, put it into my wait list for Libby. I love that it's connected to the public library. I think public libraries are a fantastic resource. I think they are a physical space, but also a community resource that has really adapted to the times. And really, like, that's a perfect example of how is like I can get books online at a moment's notice into my phone. Anywhere that I am now, I can be reading my book. And I can get audiobooks and be listening to stuff in my car. I can, right? There's just so much opportunity with that. And I love that it keeps a list of, hey, here's all the books that you read last year. I'm like, great, fantastic. I feel so smart.
You set goals and all
but
that.
But again,
yeah.
it's like, I think it's, it's super useful for me. It solves an actual problem that I have that's like, I want to read more. I have a tool in my pocket at all times that could help me read more.
Yeah.
Another one, I love maps. I love the iPhone maps, like Apple Map, love it. Like, yeah, every once in a while you're like, this is a weird route. Just trust it, go with it, abdicate that pressure. With the work that we do, we're out and about, we're in different parts of the city all the time. And it's just such a useful tool. It solves a problem for me. Whereas so many apps, I think, I check them out and then I just never look at them again. I'm pretty basic. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm basic.
Those are some very handy apps, right?
They are. So, and again, I think that kind of piece of surprise and delight, right? That's what we try to do with the magazines. It's what we try to do with our digital content as well, is create something for people that surprises them, that gives them new information, delights them, is enjoyable to use, right? So I think for me, that's really what I love about those.
That's great. If anybody wanted to get a hold of you, reach out to Avenue, where would they contact you?
Oh, we try to be as easy to find as humanly possible. Again, our mission is connecting communities and engaging audiences through trusted storytelling. So all of our main staff email addresses are in the magazine. So you can just email me, klemon@redpointmedia.ca. Put it right out there. I'll get tons of bots emailing me now, but it's fine, right? Like, I think that for us is just send us a note. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for being on the Beyond Technology podcast. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah.